Hey, Professor. As you can see, my alarm clock's working. I'm going to reset it real quick. I'm going to set it to 3 minutes so I can talk a little bit. And this is my enable switch, by the way. So if that's off, it won't play, and that'll turn it off. So we'll show that when we reach 3 minutes. Anyways, this lab was super difficult for me. I got it all to work, but as you can see, I could not get it to display. I could not get my alarm time to display on my second 7 segment display set. I was able to tie it to LEDs so that you can still get an indicator, but I'll explain my issue. So here we have everything, and what I did was I chose to set my first set of 7 segments right here as an, and then I had my second set, which was 4 to 7 now instead, and that's anode. And so these are supposed to work independently because they'd have separate outputs. So an gets displayed through my 7 segment driver, and all of that runs through my clock and all my timing, and so obviously it's keeping time and it's tracking. And then the alarm, when they match, it'll beep. Cool. In order to get this to work, I didn't want it to be on the timing, but sort of similar to the LED, I wanted them to just be in sync with each other. So whatever my input on my switches was, it would just be decoded and display. So what I had set up was an alarm 3 to 8, which is technically more like a 4 to 8, and an alarm 7 segment. And so the idea was I was going to take my input from my switches, decode them in terms of ones and zeros, and then drop the ones and zeros into my alarm 7 segment, the set of them, and it would decode them into what I would need for my 7 segment display. Let me show you. So here's my alarm 3 to 8. It would take my input from my switches, so my 4 bits, and it would, decode them out, and then it would output them as 7 to 0, and then we would come to my alarm segment. I would take my 7 to 0, and then I would decode them into 7-segment bits. So that was the whole goal of of all this. The only issue is my switch. I can't have my switches, the data from my switches run into my digital clock, because that's how my alarm clock knows to ring and knows, what time I set it to. But I can't run this input of switches, this 4-bit input of switches, to 2 places. And I wasn't able to figure out how to separate it. We are about 45 minutes away from the beginning of our next lab meeting, so I have to turn this in. So unfortunately, I just wasn't able to get it to work, but we will be able to hear it play my theme right about now. And then it'll keep looping until you turn it off, which now will just, and it stops. So I can prove that the on and off switch works. Obviously, I set it to 3 minutes, so I can change the time. And then, like I showed before, I just hold the button, resets. So that's my alarm clock. I wish I was able to get the time to display on the second set of segments, but I did have a way that you can still visually see what time it is set to. So not perfect, but it works.